Welcome to Being Anxiety Free. My name is Emma Upton and I'm here to spill all the tea on what it means to be able to choose a life where we are anxiety free. When we do this, we learn truly who we're here to be, what we're here to do, and then the unique embodiment of all of that, the codes locked in our DNA, gets to flow through us. Our life work, our life purpose, our life destiny gets to be. So let's dive into today's episode together. Cheers. Welcome to episode 25. The title being Wake Up to Your Purpose. And I feel it's a big subject matter, isn't it? Like, what's my purpose? Why am I here? I remember when I first started to embark on this weird and wonderful journey, it was, the foundation of it was, this isn't working. That's how all of this started. It started from a feeling of, this can't be my life. This can't be it. Like, I had, would I describe at that point knowing that I had this big burning something inside me? Nope. Not on your Nelly. I would say quite categorically, I didn't really have much of a clue. But what I really did know, there came a point where I had smushed myself in so many different ways, so many different times to try and be what I thought I was meant to be. I call this the ideal self avatar. I tried so hard in so many different ways that I just came to this moment where I was like, this can't be it. Now, I'd had these moments along the way. I don't know what made this one different. I kind of do. My body literally stopped working. So I'd had these moments along the way of being like, well, there's more than this. Like, this can't be your life. This isn't fun. You're not having a good time. You're doing all the things, but it's not it. That happened a few times. It got more intense. That's what happens with the universe. It's like, come on. Do I need to keep throwing stuff at you? And I ended up with lower body paralysis in bed, being like, this can't be my life. I couldn't move. Nobody understood what was going on. So that really was the point when I say, I don't know what made me choose like that. It was forced. This has to get different. And the foundation of it was, there's more than this. There's got to be more than this. I didn't know what. I didn't even know that the idea of a life purpose existed. Like, it wasn't anywhere close on my radar. But I remember when I started to explore this, one of the first books that I read was Man's Search for Meaning. Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. Let me know if you've read it. It blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, how? How can somebody enduring such pain, such injustice, such suffering, like the worst, how can somebody in that be able to navigate it in such a powerful way and be able to come out on the other side, survive, not only survive, thrive, to be able to put this body of work together that has helped, it must be millions, hundreds of thousands of millions of people to be able to navigate life differently. Like, oh, this gave me this inkling of, there's more. Okay, so my body stopped working because the way that I was doing life wasn't helpful for me. And then I started getting curious around this idea of there's more than this. And I did different things, but one of the things being, I read Man's Search for Meaning, and I was like, oh, this sings, something about this sings to me. That was the first time I even realised that humans are here with something bigger than them. But then I started to track it and I started to be like, yeah, you know what? Underneath the underbelly of everything, there is this feeling of I'm meant to be doing something more. It's meant to be more than this. And I started to look when I would lose that and when it would get stronger, because that's what, I have OCD. My brain is obsessive by nature. That's why this body of work helps me so much, because it would obsess about the things I didn't want to happen. It would obsess about getting things right. It would obsess about making sure that everybody else was good and that I'd forward thought about everything so that nobody was annoyed if we were doing something. Like, try and navigate all of the situations so nobody was annoyed in it. Like, I'd used my obsessive overthinking brain in all those ways. Well, now it was time to create this wonderland. It came slowly for my brain to actually obsess over something that was helpful to it. So this idea of, when do I feel like this idea of purpose and something more, when am I more strongly connected to it? And when do I feel further away from it? And It literally came down to one thing. This is what Awaken the Inner Power, my main body of work, comes down to. How connected we feel to our purpose literally comes down to this. How much we believe what our brain is telling us and how willing we are to create a space from that. Because what Viktor Frankl, which is what I started off with at the beginning, Man's Search for Meaning, what he watched happen in the concentration camps was people who just went with their instinctive nature of the human brain to fight, take flight or freeze. Well, if they fought the guards, they would die. If they took flight, they'd run into the barbed wire. And if they froze, they'd be shot. So very quickly, you would learn that if I just let this thing dictate my existence, it ain't gonna end well for me. Well, we're in a very privileged situation, and if you're watching this now, that goes for all of us, no matter what we have going on. We live in this really privileged space where it's not actual life and death, but our brain still is in that programming of fight, flight and freeze. But we're not forced into, there is not literally a gun against our head forcing us into being like, well, check out this, because if you go with that, it's going to end horribly. We can indulge that. We create these coping mechanisms that adhere to these three ways that the brain wants to behave. So for most of us, we go through our life figuring out how we can appease this world and how we can make it feel better by using the instinctive part of the conscious brain, the human brain. What I realized was the more I let that dominate, because that had dominated my existence, and not in the extremes that I share there, but in that I would try and navigate the outside world to make it as safe and as peaceful and as calm and as nice and as organized and going ahead with all the plans and having everything in a row. I would use all of my energy and I'd exert it in those spaces and places. That's a lot of energy. Well, what I started to realize was doing that keeps me away from feeling connected. So I'm going to watch where my brain wants to just fall into those old habits and patterns that ultimately I'm just trying to avoid these three things from happening. If I start getting more aware and more conscious of that, and I stop listening so hard, now stop is the wrong thing, and we'll come back to that in a minute, but if I started to notice that disconnect of being like, my brain is telling me this is the route, this is the route, this is what will work for me, this is what's a good idea, and I don't actually want to go down that route, I don't actually want to go down that line, how about I don't believe it so absolutely? Now there's a part of us that is going, well, you'll just die then. Because that human instinct is there, it's inbred into us. And what we have to do, and what the incredible, I can't quite believe I'm trying to correlate my life to people in concentration camp, like that's embarrassing. But what those people had to do was realize that if I follow that, it ain't going to end well. We get to do the same, but it's not so life and death for us. So we have to use extra power to be like, oh, if I just keep following the way my brain wants me to, it ain't going to end well. It ain't. That's when people get to the end of their life and they're sitting in the nursing home like, what was that all about? I'm watching my nanny, literally that happened to her, being like, well, what was all that about? If we continue to let our thought patterns dictate our existence and our life, we will never create our destiny. We will never live out our purpose. It will become an impossibility. So I watched and I tracked, I have this feeling that I'm here for something more. I have this feeling that what I'm here for is actually something much bigger than my humanness. That's interesting. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense, especially at the beginning of this. Like, I still don't get it truly, but it makes more sense because I'm moving on that path now. But I want to follow that. What's the thing that gets in my way? Oh, my brain. So how about I don't listen to it so incessantly? The biggest thing that we can do, so yesterday was trigger toad work. When we notice those triggers that are getting into our head and being like, oh, I want to be this certain way, I want to act this certain way, and you want to fall into those same patterns, recognizing when that is not helpful for us and being like, I'm not going to go down that route, I'm not going to go down that line. Today when I was walking in the woods, this notion came to me. So I'm doing the foundation work with the most glorious group of beings, and we're all in it together. Today was day 3. And we were looking at more of the strategic side of business and like the literal physical groundwork of the strategy, the launching, the programs, the signature programs, like all the logistics, with this big question behind us of Like, who am I? What am I here to do? That is what is behind me, always. And what does Frances, this is the pink beast, the pink fiend inside our head, she's up there. I depicted her not as a human or a witch, because witches are like just this monstrous bizarreness. She wants to get in the way and be like, oh, you need to know your purpose right now, and then you need to go and act it out into the world, and you need to make it a success out of day one. Well, purpose doesn't work like that. Your purpose was gifted to you in the bones of your existence. It isn't as simple as like knowing it right now and going and doing it. It's having this question. This is what we've been doing a lot in Vin's Foundation. Having this question behind us all of the time. Like, I wonder who, but this, do you feel the energy of it? I wonder who I'm here to be. I wonder what I'm here to do. I live my life with this ideal self leading my life, and it didn't work. I didn't like that. It ended really badly because I was just in my conscious brain all the time, where Frances is the ringleader. Like that doesn't work. That hasn't worked. That isn't it. So then we have to make this space in this, like, well, I don't know then, because that's all I've done for so long. I've just been reactive and responsive to the world. Now what? Having this question behind us of who am I and what am I here to do with this lightness that she hates, that he hates. Can you see the one? That he hates. And say like, I don't know, but you know what? I'm going to find out. I don't know, but I know I'm going to find out. And this is what landed for me today. Let me know if it resonates with you. Bringing life to your life's purpose and it feeling like coming home. And then that song, I'm coming home, I'm coming home. I was in the woods just crying, singing that to myself. You're like, that's it. Because that's what it feels like when you align with your purpose. That's exactly what it feels like. It feels like home. It feels like, oh my God, I need to do this. You know, when you see people that are just madly crazy in love with business, which is a program I did a little while ago now, but it reminded me of that. You just feel so in love, so at home, that it feels like this normal flow of energy just coming out of you. You're like, I could do this all day, every day. That, you know, you're moving towards your purpose when it feels like that. Does it always feel like that? No. Did it feel like that from day one? No, because there's a lot of frustrations that sit under it, being like, I know I'm here for more. I know I'm here for something different. I don't know what the blooming heck that is. I keep showing up and doing the awakening work and like being like, that's not you anymore. You don't want to do it that way anymore. But it hasn't solidified absolutely inside me. Like that moment, those spaces and places of frustration, they are so regular and I feel them on the regular. Like what it means is you're moving into a next paradigm. What the human brain wants to do is go, this ain't working, it's not right, I'm on the wrong path, this isn't my purpose, but it felt so good, but now it's not, because I'm having this resistance. And most often in those moments when we can feel that behind us and we stay, when we want to fall back and we're like, okay, like this felt in such alignment, and my brain wants me to back out, but I can feel that there's something underneath it and I'm going to trust it and I'm going to stay. We get ever closer to that purpose, and that feeling is like, yes, this is it. And that moment in the woods today, it was like a compilation of me building foundation for a few weeks. Well, it's been years in the making, but actually putting it tangibly together and piecing all the pieces together and being like, what would be most helpful for me building my business? If I'm thinking back to me when I was starting out and I couldn't see how it all fits together, what would be most helpful? So this has been percolating for a while with this bigger question of who am I and what am I here to do? 'Cause God damn the day when I pretend like I know and there's a full stop at it because I've stopped growing if that moment comes. So I had this in the background and I was like, oh my gosh, this. Bring life into your purpose. Into the world in a way that feels like home. And I'm like, okay, that feels like home, that feels like yes. Our purpose lies on the other side of noticing these three elements inside our conscious brain and deciding and deciphering, am I gonna keep listening to them? Because all they want to do is escape. All they want to do is be mad. All they want to do is freeze in the moment. It just wants to go into the primitive responses. Our purpose cannot be actualized in those spaces. Our purpose lies beyond that. And every time we awaken, a power so deep inside us, especially in those moments when we're like, oh, I got it wrong after all, like, oh, I've been traveling this far and now I'm stuck. When we're able to go against what our brain is telling us to do and move through, that's when the next level paradigm shifts happen. And that's when we get moments like me in the woods today, just standing crying, hugging a tree. This great big oak tree that's in the farmer's field that's on the way home from the woods. God bless the energy of that tree, because I just stood with my head on it, being like, Murr. It's almost like feedback from the universe, like, you're good. Keep going. You've got this. We've given you a little tidbit of like feedback going, yeah, this is it. Keep going. Keep moving. Your purpose lies on the other side of doing the things that your brain is telling you to do pretty much all of the time. Be safe, but don't confuse safety with just your brain being a noggin, which is generally what it is, if it's anything like mine and most human brains. So wake up Wednesday, wear your watermelons, be on the lookout for the trio, but especially Frances, because she's the ringleader on this. Nah, you don't have it. Let's just go and chill out somewhere. No, Frances, that is not living out your purpose, you wally. Thank you for being here. Much love.